Here's my method for making 16 half square triangles at once. If you do this 9 times total, you'll have 144 half square triangles. To do this method, you need 2 squares of fabric, a rotary cutter and cutting mat, a quilting ruler, and a piece of fabric chalk or a pen for tracing lines. I've designed a chart that explains how to make different sizes of half square triangles and what size of fabric you need to make each one. This is in my Ko-fi shop as a free download, and I will link it below. To start, you're going to flip over one of the squares so the wrong side is facing you. I'm lining this up on my cutting mat so that I can trace a nice straight line on here. Then I'm taking my quilting ruler and I'm going to lay it so that I'm drawing a line up the exact middle of the fabric. Because my fabric chalk is a little bit fat, I'm moving this over slightly so that the line is actually in the exact center of the fabric. I'm then just going to draw a line down the middle and then rotate the ruler and draw a line across the fabric in the other direction. This is a 10-inch square, so I'm tracing the lines 5 inches from the edge. And here, I'm actually just going over with blue so you can see it better because the red doesn't show up super well. Once I'm done tracing, I'm going to lay the fabric's right sides together, and then I want the piece that I traced the lines on to be facing me. I'm putting a pin into the fabric in each of these 4 sections to help hold it together. You don't need to do this, but if you have a larger square, it will keep your pieces from shifting. The first thing we're going to do for sewing is to sew a 1/4 inch seam allowance around the entire outside of the square, and that means you're sewing a 1/4 inch away from the edge of the fabric. Next, we're going to sew a 1/4 inch away from the center lines on both sides of the lines. So similar to how you did around the outside, you're just going to be sewing a 1/4 inch away from the center line, all the way up, and then all the way down the other side. You're doing this on both of the center lines, so once you're done with the first one, rotate the piece and repeat it on the other line, sewing a 1/4 inch away from that line you drew. So I have my foot lined up on this line, which means my stitches are going to be a 1/4 inch away while I'm sewing. Now that I'm done with the first side, I am sewing down the other side of the line a 1/4 inch away from it on this side as well. After sewing, it's going to look like this, and then you're just going to rotate your piece and repeat that along the other center line, going up both sides of that one a 1/4 inch away. After sewing, your piece should look like this, with 2 lines of stitching along your center lines and a row of stitching around the entire outside of your square. Before you do any cutting, I like to press the piece to make it lay nice and flat. Sometimes the stitching gets a little rippled while you're sewing, and this will make it a lot easier to get nice square pieces. To cut, you're going to lay a ruler at a 45-degree angle across your piece so that it's lined up in both of the corners. I like to lay this on the 45-degree angle on my cutting mat so that I make sure I'm cutting a straight line. I'm then going to take my rotary cutter and cut up that line at a 45-degree angle from corner to corner. After cutting the first line, I'm rotating the ruler so that it's going from corner to corner across the other direction. And then I'm going to cut that as well. Then you're going to cut up the center lines in both directions. You'll be cutting directly on the line that you traced between the rows of stitching. And here's an obligatory cameo from Clementine, who's here to help at one of the most critical stages of my project by sitting on it. So after straightening those pieces out, I'm going to show you the rest of the cutting. So basically, you're going to be cutting the points off of the square on all 4 of the corners. You'll line your ruler up at a 45-degree angle so that it's touching the ends of the center line, and you're going to cut across that. Repeat this on all 4 of the points of the square. Your half square triangles are almost done, but the last step is to press them so they lay nice and flat, and then square them up by cutting off any excess fabric that's not a perfect square. So to do this, you're going to need your cutting mat and another ruler. I like to use a small square ruler instead of my larger ruler because it's easier to work with. So you can refer to the chart that'll tell you what size to cut it to. For mine, I used 10-inch squares, which means my half square triangles will be 3 inches. Just keep in mind that these are approximations, so you'll want to do a sample piece before doing this for an entire quilt. I like to lay these so that the line of my fabric is lined up with this 45-degree angle on my cutting mat. I'm then going to lay a small ruler over the top and make sure that the corners are all lined up nicely. And then just taking a rotary cutter and trimming off any of the excess fabric. After trimming the first side, you'll just want to rotate your fabric and make sure the other side is squared up as well. So I've rotated this the other direction and I have it lined up on my 45-degree angle to trim off the excess. I don't have any tips for making the squaring up process faster, so this is the same as any other method for making half square triangles, but I really hope that the 16 at a time method helps you make quilts more quickly and that you enjoy this process. Let me know how it goes.